Hi guys, I'm Dr. Vic and I'm here at the Third Space. Today we're digging into why meat shows up at far-right marches and what really that says about power, fear and inequality. When we talk about meat, most people think of food, steak, burgers, fried chicken, bacon. But meat is more than what's on your plate. It's tied to ideas of masculinity, power, identity. And when those identities feel threatened, meat often becomes a weapon in culture wars. Today I'm going to explore how meat got tied to masculine identity, and I'll be drawing from an author's work called Carol Adams, and she wrote this book called The Sexual Politics of Meat, something that I was relentlessly marked for reading in my last job, but it makes sense. And then we're going to dig into why poorer communities cling to these symbols of privilege when they feel under threat, especially from things like mass migration that we're seeing all over the news at the minute. So back to the reasons why in today's climate of increased immigration, falling living standards, global uncertainty, those suffering the most at the lower levels of the social hierarchy are clinging so frantically to symbols like bacon, steak, to claim their own slice of that privileged pie in the battle over that tiny slither that's available, while the elite greedily gorge themselves on the rest of it. So that book that I was talking about, Carol Adams, in a Sexual Politics of Meat book, it shows how meat has been consistently linked with masculinity and dominance, and that's a less crazy idea than it seems. So think about the advertising of meat. Man-sized steaks, men grilling at the barbecue, massive burgers for real men. And then they're not just selling food, they're selling an image. They're selling what it means to be a man. So real men eat meat. Meanwhile, vegetables, tofu, vegetarian, vegan diets, they're coded as feminine, weak. You've probably heard somebody joking about that, particularly in today's climate, about the liberal lefties being vegans. It's these jokes that reinforce that hierarchy. Meat equals power, and refusing it is rejecting these socially defined standards of masculinity. It's not just about gender, it's about status as well. So if you think about it, historically meat was really expensive, not everybody could afford it, so serving meat was a way to show your wealth. It was a way of demonstrating your social class. So even today in many cultures, putting meat at the centre of your dinner equals prosperity. Meat is never just food, it's a marker of power. Here's where it gets really interesting. For poorer communities who don't have access to wealth or influence, meat can feel like one of the last accessible markers of dignity. And when times are tough, which they are right now, when jobs are insecure or when migration is framed as a threat, people cling even harder to these symbols. It's a way of saying, I may not be rich, but I can still be a man. A protector, part of the majority culture, a British man. This is something I wrote about in my thesis, how food, especially meat, becomes a battleground when people feel excluded from larger systems of privilege. And this is where politics comes in. Far-right groups know how powerful these symbols are and they use them deliberately. We've seen it, the memes that I showed you in my last video, pigs and bacon equal power, don't they? Bacon's been weaponized against these Muslim communities repeatedly and continuously in social media, and they're not just jokes. It's deliberate acts of exclusion. And bacon, or pigs, are used as rallies against mosques or against liberalism, against wokeism. And the message is clear, and it says, bacon, this is our identity and you don't belong. So meat is weaponized. It's not just against animals, but against people as well. So you might be asking why this matters. What it boils down to is that food is never just food. And when it comes to poorer communities that are desperately trying to cling to this status and privilege that may have historically known a bit more than today, they cling to meat. It's about holding on to that one slice. When far-right groups centre meat in their identity, it's about uniting people under exclusionary nationalism. It's not about taste, it's about power. So meat might seem ordinary, but it carries centuries of baggage. It's never just about dinner. It's about who gets to feel strong, who belongs, and who gets left out. So next time someone says, oh, it's just a bacon sandwich, I love a bacon sandwich, remember it's never just about the food. It's about claiming space in unequal social systems and about the fear of losing access to resources that are already scarce. The real blame doesn't lie with the men clinging to the symbol of power, but with the elites and the billionaires who profit from creating conditions of insecurity. They engineer a world where poor people feel so disempowered that brandishing meat becomes one of the few ways left to assert their own dominance, especially in competition with migrants for already limited resources. When wealth and power are concentrated at the top, poorer communities are left clinging to the few symbols of strength they can still access. In that context, meat becomes a desperate way to feel powerful, especially when competing with migrants for security, belonging and dignity. So there's no blame here. There's no blame here for the people that are brandishing these weapons of masculinity at far-right marches. What I'm saying is that we really need to address the vast and growing inequality in society. If there was enough for everybody to go around, we wouldn't be desperately grasping and clamouring to sort of attach ourselves to these symbols of identity. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to see you again next week, where we'll be talking about why pigs might not be the despised animal of God and the Bible like we've been led to believe, and they might actually be a totem of ancient lost feminine power. Hopefully see you then. Bye for now.